Welcome to the Healthcare Technology Report, a leading information source on healthcare technology companies and solutions. Today, we speak with Hal Wolf, President and CEO of HIMSS, the Healthcare Information and Management Systems Society. HIMSS is a mission-driven nonprofit and global advisor committed to transforming the health ecosystem through information and technology. Hal brings nearly 35 years of leadership in healthcare, informatics, and innovation, with expertise spanning integrated care models, digital health, and product development. With a global community of more than 125,000 members, HIMSS provides research, policy expertise, and technology-driven insights to healthcare providers, governments, and health organizations across North America, Europe, the UK, the Middle East, and Asia Pacific. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow. Hal, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
It's great to be here, and thank you for having us, RJ.
So there's probably no better guest to have on related to healthcare technology because you are the head of HIMSS, which has 120,000 members, I believe. I mean, the HIMSS name is iconic within the whole healthcare technology space, and just the sheer volume of people surrounding this organization is incredible. So maybe for the benefit of our audience, tell us a bit more about yourself, how you came to HIMSS, and then how you decided to take the leadership position with the organization.
Well, first of all, thanks again for having us on. And HIMSS is growing like crazy. In fact, we literally just broke 130,000 members in this past month, as we've been adding them from all corners of the world, with significant growth internationally, as well as here in North America. So we're very proud of that. I think, for me, I've been in technology for many years. And when I came into healthcare about 22 years ago, I looked around at various organizations, as anyone would walking in, and HIMSS completely resonated with me. And it resonated because it's not an association, it's a society. It really reaches out across the full spectrum of the healthcare ecosystem. It involves everything from physicians to technologists to nurses to informaticists to government policy, workforce development, and then really develops a lot of tools using all of these members' input as to what works, what doesn't work, or at least the experiences that can be shared. And it's just an incredible aggregation of individuals, not just globally, but also within their regions and their chapters. So for me, walking in as a bit of a change junkie and coming from some super advanced backgrounds, including the development of video on demand and the utilization of e-business and how to leverage the internet and all of these different functions, which I was really fortunate to be on the edge of. Walking into healthcare and seeing all the potential that health has to offer or needs in terms of its overall desire to get better and utilize technology and utilize tools, but more importantly, the information that the technology derives. And so this kind of just got back, to the vision of HIMSS, which was to realize the full health potential of every human everywhere, and the fundamental mission, which is to reform the global health ecosystem through the power of information and technology. And I think that that's the biggest difference, because it's not about IT. IT is an enabler. AI is an enabler. And so when you have an opportunity to go into healthcare, and just that whole global ecosystem, if that doesn't wake you up in the morning and get you going, then don't come because you really need it every single day. And it makes a difference.
I mean, with the sheer volume, as I was alluding to before, with 130,000 now, everyone is probably looking to get something different, slightly different out of the society. And I'm curious, what's the most prevalent reason why people join and are involved with HIMSS?
Yeah, it's a great question. You're absolutely right. I mean, everyone walks into any organization that they join. And it's like the old Adam, what's with it? What's in it for me? I think people start with, first of all, a natural curiosity about what can I do better? What's happening around me? Whom can I learn from? They quickly find out that there's this amazing network of not just people that are just like them, but other people that they can learn from.
Hmm.
And so it opens up just not regionally, but globally as well to all the innovation that's taking place. So there's a professional development side of it, whether it's in our formal classes that take place, certifications that are offered, partnerships with other organizations, or if it's just learning from the person who's next to you in a chapter meeting or community meeting. We use communities in multiple ways, but we have chapters around North America and in India that are a part of HIMSS. We have communities that are regionally as well, the Italian chapter, the German, in Asia Pac, there's several communities that exist. And then they're by groupings as well, informaticists, nursing informaticists, AMDIS, which is CMIOs. And so people do congregate amongst themselves in terms of learning the specialization they're in, but then they're automatically exposed just by the nature of the society to a much broader palette. And so when people walk in, they access it online, they access it directly, they know who to call when they have a question. And then sitting behind that are just the fundamental HIMSS tools or the maturity models, the analytics, our magazines, our media, which are actually capturing every single day what's the latest, what's the greatest, what's happening in AI, what's happening in machine learning, what's happening in policy. And then we also get very much involved in policy, and we are asked all the time as a global nonprofit, fundamentally as an NGO, what people are looking in and saying, okay, they don't have a point of view of trying to sell something. They're an aggregator of thought and thought leadership. So what's HIMSS' point of view on this? And so we get calls all the time, whether it's from Washington or Brussels or Singapore, whatever the case may be, we're really excited to be able to lean in and support.
I'm curious, when you first joined, like more formally joined HIMSS as the CEO, what were some of the things you saw that you felt could really continue to help propel the organization? And, we could do like a then and now type of thing. Like, what now are you most focused on?
Well, look, we always stand on the shoulders of the people that preceded us. So I was fortunate enough to be on the board at HIMSS for 4 years prior to taking the CEO role.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some insight into what HIMSS was capable of being. And I think we were extremely well known, and we're still well known for our global conference for sure. But I think that what I saw personally were two areas that were really ripe for development and need globally. One was taking our maturity models, expanding them, modernizing them, not to be a technology checklist, which they actually were and what a lot of other certificates are, but really, how do we impact from a strategic standpoint and operation standpoint in order to improve access and improve quality?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I came out of hospitals. I came out of developing products and services for use in the care and the provider side of the market. So my ideas, which dovetail perfectly into where HIMSS was and capable of going, was really how do we do that? How do we bring to bear the information that is just sitting there with golden nuggets? It's been there since the organization was started in 1961, a number of computer scientists getting together and saying, hey, if we played with this data, maybe we could get some really good insights into healthcare. I know, crazy talk, 1961. So that was a big part of it. The second part for me was I worked internationally prior to coming into HIMSS. I worked globally, both when I was at my provider that I worked with, Kaiser Permanente. I worked globally as a senior advisor as McKinsey. I worked globally with the Chartist Group when I was fortunate enough to lead digital transformation and health and the genomic practice. And what I saw was this demand globally. And so when I came in at that time, less than 5% of our membership was outside of North America. And today, 40% of our membership is outside North America. And so we've grown extensively on an international basis. While we've continued to grow in North America, you could argue, we're really well penetrated, right? Over 80,000 members here. But the growth has been in Europe, it's been in Asia Pac, it's been in India, it's been in the Middle East. And the demand, our biggest challenge right now is keeping up with Latin American demand that's coming out of Africa. And we're in the process of expanding in those areas. But when we do it, we need to do it with the right boots on the ground, if you would, the right language, the right people. It's not about dropping in, doing an event and flying out. We're not that. We participate in that, but where we really excel is having the meaningful conversations, the thought leadership, understanding the local needs. And look, we're all solving the same problems, but everyone's at a different life cycle. So that's what I saw. And it was built into the system, passionate followers of HIMSS everywhere. And given the permission to build their communities and grow, they've been doing that. And I think more than anything else, just lending the permission to make sure that we can support internationally and grow. And that's what we've been able to do.
And is that currently, so today it's also about international expansion, growing those markets?
It really is, because when you look at some of the centers of excellence in the world, Samsung Medical Center in Seoul is probably the most advanced technologically and information-based medical center in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They have 4 stage 7, which means 4 out of our 8 maturity models are at their highest level of an 8 stage, 0 to 7. We have a lot to learn from what's going on in Seoul. When you go into Taiwan, when you go into Australia, when you go into Indonesia, there are pockets, and just using Asia Pac as an example, of some amazing excellence and innovations.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to learn that in North America to understand what's occurring. When you look at what's happening in Europe, they've learned from North America what we did well, what we didn't in meaningful use. And as they're rolling out EMRs, we're doing large scale programs in Germany and Italy and Portugal and Romania, et cetera, because we're helping countries roll out. Well, that's a different approach. So leaning into that and being able to participate and give guidance when asked, and to be able to lend support and thought leadership, it's an amazing opportunity to contribute. And look, in the end, healthcare and health ecosystem, it's about contributing. It's about making just a little difference. You don't have to make gigantic differences to have long-term impact. Just a few things, and that vector over time keeps growing, and you can have a profound impact on the people that we're serving. And in the end, it gets back to that individual to realize their full health potential.
When we first hopped on, I think you were taking a sip of water from, I believe, an MTV glass.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Can you tell us about your time at MTV?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. I lived in New York City, and I was fortunate enough to get recruited into what was then called Warner Amex Satellite Entertainment Company, which owned 2 products, a newly launched product called MTV and a 12-hour nonprofit program called Nickelodeon that was a public access product out of Ohio. So Warner Amex, WASAC, Warner Amex Satellite Entertainment Company. So I was able to join MTV back in 1983, right after the launch, and was a part of its growth in the sense of distribution across the United States and the globe. And it was a great learning experience. We had a whole bunch of people, probably about 35 and under, but very smart business folks, and a really different way of looking at communication, looking at television. This was the beginning of cable TV. So I spent 7 years on the distribution side and the marketing side of MTV, and it was a phenomenal experience. And today, there's a whole group of us that, sit within a private domain called I worked at MTV when MTV was cool. So that was a part of my change junkie introduction. And then from there, just several different places, including Time Warner, for development of video on demand, and just look at things not for where they are, but where they need to be and can be, and use the technology around you with the consumer in mind and what they might look for from an entertainment or a need aspect. And now with AI, we're right on the acceleration of a whole new level of services that are both desperately needed and will be coveted as this progresses.
Mm-hmm. You've had a very successful career, which continues to go on. How has your thinking about leadership evolved? Presumably, you were at one point a young leader, just learning how to really manage and inspire organizations. Now you're at the top of a very big organization, a large and growing membership. How do you think about leadership?
It's situational. I don't think that one formula ever fits all. I've been around some really great leaders in my day that I've learned from, mentors, and they all have very different attributes. Sometimes they say that the times makes the person doesn't make the time. And I think that's true. I think innovation is critical in leadership. I think it's a hard mix between the flexibility at the individual and the leaders within your organization's level to be creative and do new things. And then at the same time, from a leader and anyone who's run a company, keeping it within the bounds of what you can and cannot do, right? The sky's the limit. In our family, we used to make a joke, say the sky's the limit and 495 is the sky. So how do you really maximize it? And I think where I've changed from a leadership standpoint is like any pendulum. You go from setting example and you try to lead by example always, and then finding lots of people who are smarter than you and give them the freedom to do what they need to do. But you also have to be a partner to make sure that they're within the parameters that will both make them and the organization successful at the same time. Each organization has a unique footprint. Anyone I've ever been in, they have a unique history, and no one starts from the same place. It's just like a hospital. You know, the old expression, if you've seen one hospital, you've seen one hospital. And so you have to look at each situation you're in. And so we've changed at HIMSS quite a bit. We've gone from, I think in the early days when I came in, totally wrapped around the global conference as our main focal point. And today we're focused around our membership and the growth of our membership and the support of our membership and the improvement of the individuals and the organizations within our membership. And we express those capabilities through channels. Conferences are one, media is another, our communities that we talked about earlier is another. And so I think you make adjustments. And so I would say the greatest attribute you can have as a leader is don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to basically listen to the opportunities that are there. And don't be afraid to say no either. But remember, you're also creating leaders behind you because no matter what you do, you're going to ride off into the sunset. And it's really important that the people behind you have the same tool set that you were given when you're coming up. So it's fun being a leader.
Mm-hmm. What do you look for in candidates for key positions in the organization?
Curiosity. You know, one of the main attributes that we have at HIMSS, it's curiosity. Why do you do things the way you do it? Challenging the system. The second one is critical thinking. I'll argue there isn't enough of it. And I mean that literally globally is you can never run out of critical thinking. The second one is really tenacity and perseverance. We all get hit, we all fall down, we all make mistakes, we all have issues. We're human beings. You know, perfection's not a human trait. Let's just put it that way, right? So how do you deal with negative moments? I think great leaders know they're coming. They despise them and they work like the Dickens to get out of them, meaning fix it, right? There was a book I read when I was young. It was a great title. The book wasn't as great as the title, but the book title was, If It Isn't Broken, Break It. And really what that was an exercise that says, take it apart through critical thinking. Figure out why it's working now, but will it work tomorrow? It's not, how do you prepare for those next stages? So I think if you lend those attributes to the people around you that are coming up and you're looking for those attributes, where I think I've ever gotten in trouble in hiring or anything else is if a person isn't instinctively strategic in their thought process, then they're not going to learn strategy. It's really hard. I mean, there's two attributes. You can follow a strategy that's given to you, but really good leaders also understand strategy and how to develop it. And you may not always agree with it. If people don't always agree with mine, that's great. That's what critical thinking is all about. And that's how we learn from each other.
Two final questions. One is, can you tell us about a person who's had a profound influence on you?
Oh, yeah, there's a long list. I think from a leadership standpoint, there are several In my earliest years, the person that influenced me the most was a congressman, actually, a gentleman by the name of Charles Bennett. And Congressman Bennett served the third district, which was Jacksonville, Florida, for over 40 years in the House of Representatives. It was his legislation that started the ethics committee in Congress, and they wouldn't let him serve on it because they called him too ethical. But I asked him once because he was leader in Jacksonville, Florida, at a very difficult time of forced busing and integration. And about 90% of the people in Jacksonville were opposed to forced busing on both sides. And he was for it and led it and explained to everyone why. And I remember asking him in his office one day how he reconciled that, because as a representative democracy, your job is partly to represent what your people think. And he said, look, leadership isn't about doing what people want you to do. Your job is to look out for what you believe is for their best interest long term. And if they don't like it, they can always replace me every 2 years. But that's my job. And my number one responsibility is to the person I shave every morning, because I have to look that person in the eye, and do the right thing is what he was really trying to say. So he was a very big influence on me at that point. And there are many others. My own father is a huge influence on me as a leader of a business and as a mayor in a small town. And how do you look out for your employees and how do you look out for the people in your constituency around you? And then George Halverson, who led Kaiser Permanente, was a really fascinating leader, amazing delegator, better than I am in terms of delegation, and a great visionary as well. And he understood that fine line between how do you set that vision and how do you get the organization to that spot. So I've been very blessed to be around a number of phenomenal leaders in my day. And then I can get into history and I won't bore you with that. Historical figures. There's some great ones, right?
Yeah.
But I kept quotes above my desk in college and, two from historical figures. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself," was always an important quote. And Thomas Jefferson, and just sort of basically giving that view that today we are farmers, so tomorrow our sons may be poets.
Mm-hmm. Last question. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
Well, obviously, HIMSS is my number one passion. It really is. This is where I spend my time, both in terms of a cause, a mission-based organization, and our foundation's very important to me. So in that space of delivering, where I've spent other time is in the educational field, where I've tried to contribute on boards of different schools, as well as I do adjunct teaching at universities as well. Those are the two areas where I spend a lot of my time. And then from a pure contribution standpoint, Doctors Without Borders is one of the most important organizations that I personally contribute to. And they do amazing work and they have a huge responsibility. And everyone hears the name, but when you actually see their work in the field, it's inspiring.
Hal, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. It's truly been a wonderful conversation.
Well, thank you so much. It was wonderful questions, and you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And thank you so much for having me.